Andy and Fuko rush toward the hall to stop Unrepair before the Negator hunters can catch him. Meanwhile, the guard notices a Negator trying to escape in the auction item warehouse and tries to stop him, but the Negator suddenly freezes the guard. In a flashback, the Negator named Chikara complains about everything being in English and gets strange looks from others. Suddenly, two men stun Chikara and decide to hand him over to the Union, but before the guard can shoot him,
Nice.
one of the Negator hunters stops the guard and Tristan approaches Chikara. He tells his allies he doesn't want the Union to capture Chikara, and Deckard suggests testing Chikara's abilities by shooting at him. However, Andy protects Chikara before anything can happen as Fuko arrives to check on Chikara while he observes each Negator hunter, pointing out their strengths and weaknesses. Just as he focuses on Tristan, Tristan attacks, revealing himself as Unrepair, and explains his ability to prevent healing techniques on wounds he causes, telling Andy and Fuko to hand over Chikara to be killed. On top of that, he wants to transfer Chikara's abilities to someone else.
Interesting.
Andy swiftly has Fuko decapitate Chikara, using the distraction to attack Unrepair. He vows to stop Unrepair from joining the Union as Tatiana joins the fight against Deckard and Kowloon. As Andy prepares to attack Unrepair, Latla protects him, getting praised by Unrepair for Andy's skill, but he declines Unrepair's offer, so Unrepair decides to offer it to Fuko instead. Despite Unrepair's interest in Chikara's power, he thinks Chikara is weak and wants a stronger team to take over nations. Unrepair throws a knife at Chikara, but Andy and Fuko intervene, with Fuko reassuring Andy before some Yakuza guards arrive. Chikara helps him tend to Fuko's wounds and tries to properly have a discussion with the guards, remembering his mother's advice on kindness. Taking strength from this memory, Chikara uses his unmovability to briefly stop the guards and asks Andy to take Fuko to safety, getting admired by him for his bravery. Two people sing happy birthday to Tatiana while she cries over Gina's death.
I think it's time that somebody made a birthday dance.
And fights against Deckard and Feng. Meanwhile, Andy tells Tatiana about Fuko's injury caused by Unrepair, telling them that they only have an hour to defeat Unrepair or Fuko will be in serious danger. In a flashback, Tatiana challenges Andy to a duel because she's angry about Gina's death and refuses to accept him into the Union. She reveals Gina's feelings for Andy, who acknowledges them but admits he wasn't against her murder. Tatiana almost attacks Fuko in her anger, but Andy protects her before Nico advises her to calm down and wait to see if Andy and Fuko are fit for the Union after their mission. Suddenly, Andy shocks Tatiana by appearing naked on her metal vessel, and Nico warns him to take Fuko and leave as Tatiana loses control over her powers, which could cause widespread destruction. Fuko admits that she was involved in Gina's death due to her unluck ability, helping Tatiana regain control. She then asks Tatiana to share her history with Gina. Days later, she tries to reconcile with Tatiana, suggesting they're more similar to each other than she realizes and saying they should shake hands as equals once they get rid of their Negator powers. In present day, Andy doubts his ability to support Tatiana in her duel with Unrepair's allies, but she's still determined to avenge Fuko's suffering. Meanwhile, Unrepair shows Latla's stolen goods as in Tatiana's battle with Creed and Feng. Deckard decides to use toxic gas, saying it can kill in 3 minutes. Tatiana's Negator abilities and her past, including her auction history and encounter with Billy, who saves her from certain death, are explained as Billy's kindness convinces Tatiana to live, after which she joins the Union under Nico's guidance. In present day, Tatiana uses her powers, allowing Andy to locate Unrepair and start fighting him, urging Tatiana to leave him to handle it. Chikara uses his unmoved powers to help Andy and Fuko fight Latla and Unrepair, who analyzes the situation, observing Chikara's abilities and Andy's attack patterns, while also pointing out a problem in Chikara's powers. Through good teamwork, Andy's attack hits Latla, prompting Unrepair to strike back, which makes Andy warn his friends. Unrepair admits that Chikara's fear is his biggest weakness, making it hard for him to control his powers. Despite another attack from Unrepair, Chikara manages to stop it. Andy is unsure and a bit worried about Latla's powers, but he trusts Fuko's unluck abilities to help them. Tatiana uses her powers to bring them closer to Unrepair, and after some ranged attacks, he asks Fuko to use her unluck powers by kissing him. He also warns Chikara about an oncoming meteor, but despite being concerned over Latla's abilities, Andy believes Chikara can help defeat the Negator hunters. The meteor misses Unrepair and Latla thanks to her powers, and Fuko urges Tatiana to support Andy. As Unrepair and Latla approach Chikara and Fuko, Chikara stops them, revealing it was part of Andy's plan. He then shoots Unrepair, shocking him before Latla summons a killer whale and escapes as Fuko questions their origins. Latla tells Fuko to ask Unrepair next time, and the Negator hunters retreat as Tatiana checks on Fuko's well-being. Andy believes Unrepair's powers are deactivated, ensuring their safety, and thanks Fuko, Tatiana, and Chikara for their help. Fuko invites Chikara to join the Union, with Andy and Tatiana agreeing to keep him a secret. They give him a week to decide, and a week later, Andy and Fuko wait at Chikara's school gate, unsure if he will show up before Unrepair suddenly arrives looking younger, shocking Fuko. Fuko asks Unrepair how he managed to survive, and he explains that he died but somehow reverted to a younger age, though he thinks he'll be returning to his original state soon. Before offering Andy and Fuko a gift, Andy punches him as Unrepair asks about Fuko's recovery, and she confirms she's healed. He tosses her a handgun, calling it an artifact. As she catches the weapon, she suddenly has a strange vision showing suffering people as a figure watches them from above. Andy comforts Fuko, touches the artifact, and suddenly experiences a similar vision. She asks Unrepair about the figure, who he identifies as the god the Union wants to kill, believing it to be unbeatable. He reveals his group called Under aims to rule the world before the god's arrival. Unrepair reveals that the next phase of their plan is in process just as Andy and Fuko receive reports of Roundtable members battling Negator hunters in Egypt and China. Unrepair explains Under's goal of creating a fair world and invites Andy and Fuko to join, but Andy remains confident in defeating them. After Unrepair leaves, Chikara arrives, having overheard their conversation about killing God. Chikara tries to escape using his powers to stop Fuko, but Andy insists on discussing matters deeply.
Okay.
They head to Chikara's school to talk, and in a classroom, he asks Andy about his views on the world's end and reveals his dark story of accidentally killing his parents with his powers. Despite wanting to commit suicide, he decided to live and make up, realizing his ability could save lives. Chikara expresses his desire to join the Union, and before they continue, his classmate Rio arrives, curious about their conversation. Chikara comforts Rio and learns some exciting university news from him. As a vehicle arrives to pick them up, Rio tries to stop Chikara, who uses his powers to calm him and expresses gratitude, promising to graduate together if they succeed in their mission. In the vehicle, Chikara asks Andy to erase memories of him from everyone's minds, including Rio's. Nico agrees, and Chikara breaks down in tears during the ride. Fuko tells Andy she wants to defeat God for everyone's sake and asks for his help in training. Meanwhile, Juice supervises a special training schedule to strengthen Chikara and Fuko at an undisclosed location, as the Roundtable waits for Apocalypse's next quests. Apocalypse announces that everyone on Earth can participate in 4 quests, with a deadline of December 31st. Otherwise, UMA Revolution will be unleashed. Juice repeats Apocalypse's message to the group as Billy suggests a drastic solution, but Tatiana worries about the potential deaths. Despite several objections, Billy says they cannot defeat God and pulls out his pistol before starting to attack Union members. Shin and Andy swiftly disarm him, prompting Andy to reflect on Unseen's quest outcomes and Unrepair's mysterious words from before. Andy hints at Billy joining forces with Unrepair and Under as Sparks notices Haruka's injury and asks Nico for help. He angrily attacks Billy, injuring Tatiana. Billy plans to take the Roundtable to Under to kill God, while Fuko spots Unrepair and Latla. Unrepair compliments Fuko, who mentions her physical improvement from training with Chikara. Tatiana struggles to accept Billy's betrayal, and Andy advises Chikara to take cover due to the tense situation. Unrepair reveals Billy as his leader, further upsetting Tatiana before Billy wounds Sparks during another attack, then battles Juice, Shin, and Andy. Billy takes advantage of Juice's power and uses it against them, using his fire monster Burn to overpower them. He asks Tatiana to join him in Under, mentioning his previous rescue of her. Fuko shoots at Billy, discussing loyalty and betrayal before he calls Tatiana his enemy and plans to escape with his allies. Juice tells Andy he must stop Billy to resist God, so he creates a plan involving Fuko's unluck ability, worried about Latla's powers. Juice assigns tasks to prevent Under from escaping as Fuko promises Tatiana they'll save Billy and sets off with Andy to face him, and Juice begins the operation. Billy and his friends make a move to escape with the Union's Roundtable as he warns Unrepair not to underestimate the Union, revealing their determination. Unrepair says their organization's singular goal is to kill God, but assures Billy of their cooperation. Billy agrees to comply while Juice assigns different tasks to Union members. Each member from Nico and Andy carries out their assigned duties as Fuko says she wants to negotiate with Billy and stop him from advancing. Dodging Burn's attacks, Andy suggests interrogating Billy, mentioning differing objectives between Billy and Unrepair, which Fuko agrees to, wanting to give Billy a beating first for Tatiana's sake. Facing Billy, Fuko kisses Andy while delivering a decisive blow as he launches his parts bullet head attack, diving into Burn's stomach and zapping him with faulty cables. Miko activates the Union's lab cooling system, freezing Burn in place. Though Billy dismisses their efforts, Fuko remains optimistic, relying on her unlocked powers and the Union's unbreakable pile cannon. As the Union celebrates their success, Chikara informs Juice of Tatiana's absence and Andy starts fighting Billy, who overwhelms Andy by absorbing Andy's undead powers. Unrepair advises Latla to stay out of the conflict as Billy and Andy continue their intense duel, with Billy taking advantage of Juice's powers to disable Fuko. Andy rescues Fuko, but realizes Billy can mimic others' powers while Burn breaks free from the Union base, but Tatiana and her allies stop them from escaping. Tatiana takes the chance to interrogate Billy about his betrayal, using her powers to push him towards Burn, and Fuko grabs Apocalypse, explaining their pursuit. Before escaping, Apocalypse attacks Fuko with painful memories, causing her to hurriedly release him. Phil intervenes, restraining Apocalypse with his rock arm, and Andy plans to fight Billy, who offers to lend Apocalypse to the Union temporarily, deciding to recover him later. Billy escapes with his allies, leaving Juice to order Andy and the Union members to arrive at HQ, which Andy agrees to. Everyone gathers around Juice as Apocalypse demands to be freed, but Juice ignores it and tasks Nico for an update. Nico reassures Juice that their decision to force a stalemate with Under was wise and that Fuko is recovering well. Andy questions Juice's decision for the quests involving UMA Galaxy penalties, remembering Apocalypse's announcement of these quests. Juice proposes accepting the penalties to strengthen their forces, which Andy is skeptical of, calling it careless because of the potential loss of Roundtable members. In a flashback, Juice discusses the rule and penalty system with Fuko and their plan for intervening, as well as the 99th penalty. Juice warns Andy and Fuko about the terrible consequences of another penalty, leading to Ragnarok as Shin asks about Juice's relationship with Victor as Andy shares information about Victor in a flashback. Shin questions Victor's knowledge of Galaxy before it became a rule, and Juice reveals that their world is caught in a constant loop, with God repeatedly destroying and recreating it. Fuko remembers scenes from touching different artifacts, which Juice confirms as memories from past world events. Juice admits that she failed in preventing these disasters, so Andy and Tatiana ask her about her knowledge of previous world events. She discloses that she learned about the loop through Ark and offers to share information on the world's end and rebirth. She describes God's destruction of the world and constant recreation, revealing that the meteorites summoned by Fuko's unlocked powers are remains from previous versions of Earth, refusing to explain anything else about the world's end. She points out a mole on the back of Andy's ear, which means that not everything stays constant between cycles. Fuko realizes that Victor's first-hand experience comes from his undead powers, and Juice reveals her use of Ark to recall past events, while Victor has experienced them firsthand. After Juice shares her experiences, the group decide to get back the Roundtable, Billy, and Under's artifacts. Juice orders Fuko and Andy to investigate a book containing information about the world's past and future events, telling them about the importance of their task and showing them a book. Fuko recognizes a comic in Juice's hands that she loves, and she shows its 20th volume, discussing how it's related to their world's invasion event and suggesting they should investigate further. Top asks about the series, on which Fuko and Tatiana share their thoughts. Fuko admits she doesn't know much about the author, Anolan, as Juice speculates that Artifact G-Liner is responsible for the manga's art, unaffected by new rules. Andy suggests that the story's raw manuscript is likely still in Japanese because of a language exception. Juice tells Andy and Fuko to explore the manuscript and its author, Ano-un, and he surprises Fuko and Tatiana by saying they should create an impressive manga to gain access to the publisher's headquarters. Miko takes them to a room for manga creation where Fuko initially struggles, but Andy assures her of his help. Andy explains their manga project's plan and that Fuko's responsibility is important for the narrative. Encouraged by Andy, Fuko starts working hard and shares her motivations with him. Fuko shows Andy a draft, which he approves as they get ready for the drawing phase. With help from others, they begin working, and Tatiana smoothly controls her drawing device, offering to help Fuko master it. Juice joins in, working with Fuko and offering her help. Fuko checks the manga again, noting that it doesn't have many references because of Billy's treachery or their current quests. Juice wonders if it was on purpose, and they decide to investigate. After more work, Fuko shows Andy the finished manga, and they head to Shueish's headquarters, where she shows their story to an editor. Impressed, the editor offers her a chance to enter their contest and helps in locating Yumi's raw manuscripts. Fuko identifies the Japanese manuscripts as Juice urges them to find Ano immediately. Fuko overhears Tahioka talking to Ano and decides to arrange a meeting. Despite being reluctant, Andy gets Tahioka to hand over her phone. Fuko invites Ano to read her manga, so he sends her a photo of the location, but she loses her memories in the building. Andy, Fuko, and the others from Under are fighting a gigantic skeleton named Autumn at Canada's Stanley Park before Fuko activates her unlock powers by kissing Andy, but she's suddenly attacked. Meanwhile, Anna receives a call from Tahioka is in his office and a while ago. Andy bullies Tahioka and Fuko arranges a meeting with Ano in Canada's Stanley Park. Later, Fuko and Andy are aboard an airplane, discussing their upcoming meeting with Ano and his manga, To You From Me. Despite the confusion surrounding Ano, Andy says he's confident in their ability to capture him. They arrive at the park and patiently wait for Ano to arrive. While eating a meal and strategizing, Ano sneaks up behind them, grabbing their file containing documents of Undead plus Unluck, the manga they created. Ano criticizes their work and says he knows their true intentions. Suddenly, some spider-like creatures known as juniors appear, summoned by Autumn, but Ano swiftly defeats the juniors using his paintbrush and says they should discuss their manga before facing Autumn. Andy asks him about his knowledge of the future and his objectives before Anna starts discussing with Fuko, but she's more curious about how he found her so quickly. Despite Ano's advice for Fuko to better understand Andy before facing Autumn, she refuses and they confront Autumn, who maintains himself by consuming human stories and start battling him and his juniors. Although Andy's initial strategy fails, Ano intervenes using his paintbrush to provide help and offers to train Andy and Fuko after the battle, convincing Jews despite her initial hesitation. He then uses Autumn's claw to slash Andy, after which he suddenly transforms into a tower of books, leaving Fuko shocked. Fuko is impressed by the tall stack of books that Andy has transformed into, and Ano explains that most of these books represent Victor's memories before using an artifact called Soul Caliber on Fuko, which lets him extract people's souls out of their bodies and put them into objects. Ano hopes that by putting Fuko into Andy's memories, they can understand themselves better and understand each other more deeply. Suddenly, Fuko finds herself in one of Andy's memories, standing in a desert. A cowboy approaches her, but before anything happens, Andy steps in to save her. In the memory, Andy argues with a colleague about not saving all the children as she watches him with admiration, while his colleagues disapprove of her being there and wonder if they should get rid of her. Trying to gain Andy's trust, Fuko mentions his tattoos, which gets his attention. Andy invites her to join them for a meal at a parlor, where they share drinks. Fuko asks Andy and his friends about their activities, and Andy reveals they are in a time after the Civil War, where they spend their lives fighting villains and receiving rewards for their heroic acts. However, Andy's friend Josh remarks that Andy wants to learn about his past. Fuko says she wants to join Andy's group to gain his trust, become stronger, and learn more about him. Andy gives her a gun and tells her to fire it at her head, which she complies with, showing Andy's reluctance to harm certain people. Despite being initially doubtful of Josh and the others, they decide to let Fuko join their group. Suddenly, they are attacked by multiple people, revealing a plan set up by the saloon worker along with the attackers. In the chaos, Fuko helps Andy bury their friends and he forgives the saloon worker but asks her to respect their memories annually. Fuko promises her loyalty to Andy's group and thinks of their previous experiences. Despite the challenges, she values their bond. As they discuss death, Fuko encourages Andy and praises him for smiling. He shares details about his oldest memory and Fuko fades away, leaving him a message about their future meeting. Alone, he thinks about her thoughts on death and happily notes that memories keep people alive. As Fuko finds herself in front of an important building, she heads to the location Andy mentioned about his oldest memory. Victor and Juiz run into Apocalypse and have a conversation about reincarnation and death as she assures Victor that she won't forget him. Victor remembers a moment with Juiz by a church bell, promising not to surrender to anyone. When he faces Fuko, who holds Andy's memories, Victor tells her to leave and wants to take control over their shared body by weakening Andy's mind, threatening to kill her to stop her from diving into his memories further. Despite Fuko trying to resist, Victor continuously kills her until she reaches his last memory in 2020. In a devastating attack on Shinjuku, Fuko tries looking for Andy, but Victor thinks he's prevented their meeting by killing Fuko. However, Andy surprises him by bringing Fuko, determined to protect her. Victor tells Andy about how he's after Fuko, and they start fighting each other. Andy quickly tells Fuko to send information to his future self and gives her unluck to help him against Victor. Strengthened by his soul attached to his fingers, Andy's attack overwhelms Victor and finally defeats him. Later, Fuko and Andy approach Victor's trapped head, and she notices a container like the one that was used to trap Andy before. As she grabs it, Victor suddenly breaks free, so she says she wants to talk to him about his past life and relationship with Juiz, asking about him interfering in her plans. Victor compares their bond to his with Juiz and says he's determined to end Juiz's suffering. Recognizing Fuko's progress in controlling her unluck, Victor believes her journey with Andy could help her understand and possibly reach God. For the events in 1865, Victor tells Fuko to ask Jules for more information. To leave the memory world, he advises her to kiss Andy's counterpart, which she does before fading away as Andy bids her farewell and his memory book closes.